In this video, we are going to take a look at CMS, which stands for Content Management System. So almost every website is made using HTML and CSS. You can create a website, code it from scratch, or you can create a website using a CMS to piece the pages together more easily. So with a CMS, you can use pre-built templates to launch web pages more quickly. You can customize these templates that are available to make them your own. It's much faster than coding something from scratch. So if you have like a 100-page website, it's much faster to create a website using a CMS than to code every HTML page from scratch. CMS is also extremely useful for those who have no coding knowledge. And one of the biggest benefits to using a CMS is the low barrier to entry, which is useful for startups and small companies who don't have, that much of a budget for a web developer. Okay, so why do we use CMS? Number one, the main benefit is website management. Number two, cost and time. Number three, customization, as we just talked about. And number four, multi-user support. And number five, also offers previews and testing. Okay, so in the following slides, I'll go over those 5 benefits that I just talked about. So number one is the website management aspect. So a website with only a few pages that will rarely need updating, then in that case, you can go ahead and use HTML, just code from scratch with HTML and CSS. But realistically speaking, for many businesses, a more dynamic site is needed. Most websites have much more than just a few pages and constantly need to be updated and needs to be quite dynamic. So when you're creating a large website with multiple pages and you plan on making changes or additions to your website, it is easier to edit existing pages, publish new pages, add online stores, create web forms, and all this extra functionality. This is much easier to do when you use a CMS. There's also the cost and time benefit. It is much faster to produce a website using a CMS. Most CMS platforms come with many pre-built themes. Your website may stand out if you use themes. You would still need some knowledge of HTML or CSS to customize the design. So for HTML only websites, not using CMS, you need to design, code, and set up your website from scratch, which takes a lot of time and can get very expensive. As you have done in your previous course, coding a website from scratch can be very, very time consuming, and you experience that firsthand, right? Next is the idea of customization. So making changes to a page is extremely easy. Even when you're using a template, you can still customize pages. On an HTML website, design changes are much more difficult. You might have to change the pages manually and also edit the CSS even. And this can get quite messy and quite tricky very fast. CMS also offers multi-user support. So CMS is perfect for large websites with multiple services, that needs features, maybe even needs a blog. With CMS, user accounts can be easily created. You can assign a role such as admin or contributor to each user. So what this means is that, with a larger website, you have more people contributing to the content, multiple people managing the content of the web, managing maybe different parts of the website. So it's useful to have this multi-user support feature if you're, especially regularly updating product pages and publishing blog articles on your site. Without some kind of system to manage all the different users and some kind of support to organize this, it can also become very messy very quickly. So with CMS, content management systems, there's usually something in place to, provide this support for multiple users. And lastly, the previews and testing is a very important aspect of CMS. You can preview your website very easily. You can make changes very quickly. This is usually cumbersome to do so on an HTML-only website. You can copy and paste your HTML coding onto a plain text file, save it, close it, open it in your browser, so you can preview your site, or you can upload to the server and then view live. But there's quite a few steps, or maybe not that many, but even a couple steps in between you're making the edit and seeing the changes. But with a CMS, you can preview the changes very easily in real time as you make the changes. All right, so I've talked about why use a CMS, what are the benefits. Next, I want to talk more about what exactly is a content management system. What is a CMS? CMS, we know that help organizations and individuals manage, create, and track content for their website. CMS is what makes up the back end of your site, and then it pushes the content to the front end so that your visitor sees. So to the visitor that sees your website, they don't really care if your website was coded from scratch or created using a CMS. They just see the front end of it. The CMS really has to do with the back end of it, how it is all managed. So CMS provides version control and management and multiple user access, as we just talked about. CMS also helps in managing the text or images which are being displayed on the website. CMS also tracks the user sessions. If you have multiple users, very important. It can handle search queries. It can collect visitor feedback and comments. It can host forums on the website. So very rich in features. Okay. So again, just kind of going over the benefits again. Number one, you don't need coding knowledge. For most of the CMS that are out there, it simplifies the redesigning of a website. It provides an all-inclusive internet marketing strategy. It gives you multiple access and collaboration. Number of people can work on the site at the same time. Also offers, website security, another thing that we'll talk about later on the course as its own unit. And we talked about this. Number 6, affordable time and time-saving maintenance. Okay. So there's also disadvantages. The advantages are, as we just looked at in the previous diagram. I won't go over over the points again. This is just reiterating the same points. Most important thing for a lot of the businesses out there is that there's no coding knowledge required. CMS were specifically built keeping in mind that users have little or no previous programming experience. This could be, users in the communications department or marketing department that need to update information very often, very quickly, who have no programming experience. Their specialties are elsewhere, but they are content contributors and are important, important contributors to the website. So CMS were, specifically designed keeping in mind users like these, that they are important users as well in terms of website management, and they should be able to update information without any programming knowledge, without any technical expertise in that aspect. The CMS comes with a WYSIWYG editor. WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. This helps, the user manage and edit web content like images and text easily on the website. Okay, it is as simple as creating a document on Microsoft Word. This really simplifies the redesigning of the website. Designs can be created separately from the content. The old design can be replaced easily with a new design in a CMS website, sometimes as easily as, with a click of a button, installing a new theme or a new template. And of course, it's never as magical as it sounds when you do something like that. We'll talk about it later. There's always some modifications that you have to make later. But for the most part, yes, it is quite simple to, completely redesign the whole site. Much easier than if you're coding from scratch. All right, there's also multiple access and collaboration. As talked about, CMS allows a number of people to have easy access to the website, so multiple users can manage, edit, update content from the site. using their own computers or devices. The CMS helps in storing all the online content, and then it makes it available to everyone who has access to their website. Okay, and we haven't touched on this yet. We'll talk about this much more in later part of the course. Today I'll talk about how important it is that your website is secure and should not be able to be hacked. It is important for website owners of especially e-commerce businesses or other organizations or businesses that have information from their customers or even employees, internal information, to ensure that their website is safe and secure. CMS are regularly tested by computer scientists to ensure that websites are completely secure. There are a number of plugins and tools that are also available that can be used to increase your website's security. And we'll learn about which plugins and tools that we should use to increase our website security. And the point about affordable and time-saving maintenance. Maintaining a static website is expensive. You need a web developer to frequently update and make changes to maintain it. A web developer be somebody with the expertise in HTML, CSS, JavaScript to go in there and do the coding to make any changes. So it takes time for these updates to be seen on the website. It's also expensive. When you choose a content management system, this saves you both time and money. So with the CMS, you don't have to be dependent on a developer anymore to make common changes or maintaining it. Right, so the next slide talks about different kinds of CMS, and we'll take a look at this in this video. There's WordPress, which is what this course is going to cover. But before we jump into WordPress, I wanted you to be aware of all the other CMS that are also out there. Even though WordPress has a huge market share and is the most used CMS out there, I want you to understand that there's also Joomla, Drupal, other less known ones like Typo3 and Wix. But is Wix really a CMS? We'll take a look at that in a bit. So knowing that there are many different types of CMS out there, these are the questions that you want to ask before you choose a CMS. So WordPress, although very popular, might not always be the best solution for a business problem, okay, or not a problem for a business, okay? So before making any decisions regarding the platform, it's important to fully understand the organization's goals, vision, and overall functionality of the site or application that you're going to build. It is not always going to be WordPress, okay? So the questions that you need to ask are you looking to build a site or an application? What kind of information are we trying to display and share? Do you need different levels of access to the site and its content? Are there many different kinds of users that are going to be using it? Are there any third-party tools that we want to sync or integrate with the site, such as Salesforce, MailChimp, HubSpot, etc.? So, and how do you want visitors to interact and engage with the site? And how do you see the site or the application growing over the next few years? It might start out small, but is there like a plan for it to get much bigger or integrate, like online store or other functionality into it down the road? So let's start off with WordPress. Even if you've never worked in WordPress, I'm sure it's something that you have heard of before. WordPress is the most popular CMS that is out there. It has the largest market share amongst its competitors. It is used by over 30% of all websites out there. Examples that you may not know about is the New York Times or BBC America, Forbes, and these are all WordPress CMS sites. So working on a WordPress site is extremely easy. It can be inexpensive and can look very professional. Posting new content and pages is very easy. It has a very powerful editor for formatting the content. So the learning curve for WordPress is, not very steep. Drupal is another one. Drupal is not as easy to use and is much more complicated than WordPress or Joomla. Joomla is another one. However, Drupal is considered far more secure than WordPress and Joomla. It is known for its scalability, meaning how big it can get, and security features, making it a better option for businesses. So for business CMS websites, it's mostly preferred. And then next we look at Drupals. Drupals for organizing large amounts of data and content, provides taxonomies, blocks, views, content types, allowing you to create, organize, and present data differently. Drupal user permissions and user roles are more advanced and can provide controlled access to content. So Drupal offers distribution, so prepackaged bundles with modules and configurations to create specific types of websites. The post-installation experience for beginners is a bit complicated, so that means setting it up, it's a little bit complicated if you have never worked in Drupal before. Users will find it difficult to figure out how to make some changes on the site. How to add the content. So in terms of, adding content for the contributors, it's obvious, but changing appearances and adding non-content elements is not very obvious, a bit more challenging. But if you just, if you have someone who has technical expertise setting it up and managing everything, and you just have the content content providers just providing the content in a very structured way that you want them to, this shouldn't be an issue. So use Drupal website if you want to, if the website you want to build will have a lot of custom functionality and requires first-class security. Drupal is geared more towards developers than DIY users. So if you're like a small business owner or first-time CMS user, then you probably don't want to use Drupal. Might not be what you need. A lot of custom work and coding would be required to achieve your final desired effect with Drupal. So the setup is more, but the end result is worth it. It's much more customized and might be very close to exactly what you need. In terms of security, both WordPress and Drupal are secure CMS solutions. Due to the way websites are built, though, customized and extended on each platform, Drupal is more secure than WordPress. And it's actually not the core of WordPress that is the problem. The WordPress itself, the core of it, it's very secure. It's actually the themes, user habits, and mistakes that are commonly seen with WordPress users due to the way platforms work. We'll talk about that a bit more in just a bit. So WordPress plugins, its effect on security. So the main security issue with WordPress sites stems from the vulnerability that's created when third-party plugins are uploaded. So WordPress themes are preloaded with many unused plugins that reduce response and increase security vulnerabilities. So each time a plugin is uploaded to WordPress, the site becomes vulnerable to potentially malicious code from non-verified third parties. Because Drupal's themes and modules are covered by an internal security program, this makes it difficult to smuggle malicious code. So therefore, they're less susceptible to security vulnerabilities. Okay, and you can see the infected WordPress platform distribution from 2018, so just about 3 years ago. It looks like this, all right? And you can see it's like 90% of the infected websites. That's not a good sign. So, but let's learn a little bit more about why this is the case. So around 90% of all infected CMS websites run on WordPress. The low score of WordPress is due to a few factors. So before we jump to conclusions, let's take a look at these factors. First of all, it's due to the fact that WordPress is simply just the most popular CMS on the web. So naturally, it will receive a much bigger piece of the hacking pie. Since many sites run on WordPress, hacking into WordPress obviously yields a higher return on investment for attackers. Investing in building an exploit for WordPress can result in breaking into thousands of sites as opposed to a much smaller number for Joomla or Drupal. So whatever site that is most popular will obviously receive the most amount of hacks, right? However, Drupal and Joomla are hacked into proportionately less than WordPress. So even if you take that into account, WordPress is still hacked into a lot more. So security is one of the main selling points of Drupal. So even though it's difficult to set up and everything, security is where it wins. So many government agencies and other institutions have trusted Drupal chiefly due to its strong focus on website security. So in general, WordPress is ideal for small and medium businesses, although you see that New York Times and BBC America all use WordPress, so that's not always the case. It is possible to have, bigger sites using them as well. So as WordPress offers so many themes, plugins, and options and integrations, it's good to use it as it is. If you need to customize the layout or functionality, it can be difficult to run and it might cost more in the long run, okay? So if you really need to customize, choose Drupal. If you can use it as it is, use WordPress, because WordPress already offers so many themes, plugins, and options. Okay, Drupal is a great option for those looking to build an enterprise-level solution or a site that contains multiple forms of content, features, functionality, or integrations. Drupal can handle multiple rows, integration, content, and complex configuration requirements. Good for customer experience portal or application. So WordPress offers 5,000 plus themes and 53,000 plus plugins. Drupal offers 2,500 plus themes, 46,000 plugins, most of which are free. Okay, so very close in number to plugins. WordPress has more themes available. All right, so next we'll take a look at Joomla. So Joomla is somewhere in the middle between WordPress and Drupal. Joomla delivers a lot of user-facing features, but also expects you to custom code for non-standard elements. So it has a much more advanced user management scheme, which can be handy if your website is meant to be managed by many people. Again, the learning curve here is quite steep, not as easy as WordPress to learn. So more like Drupal, you need to have technical expertise to learn how to use Joomla. So Joomla is the second most used CMS, and it is not as beginner friendly as WordPress. Joomla enables users to build web pages without having to know coding. Joomla offers multilingual support. It saves you from using plugins or extensions for adding languages to your website. So it's already built in there. With WordPress, you can add plugins to allow this, right? You can also use more than one template or themes at once, which is different than WordPress, right? So at any one time, you can have more than one or multiple themes at the same time for different types of content. So just like WordPress, Joomla comes with templates and extensions. So templates are like themes and extensions are like plugins. So the quantity of these templates and extensions are not as high as WordPress. It's not as many. So this can make finding the perfect template and perfect extension a bit difficult. It doesn't have a feature that would allow users to search and install extensions or templates from the admin area. So not as easy to install like in WordPress. Let's look at the similarities now that we have looked at all the differences, the similarities between Joomla, Drupal, and WordPress. So all three of them are written primarily in PHP. They all support MySQL as their database management system. WordPress supports only MySQL, while Joomla and Drupal support other database management systems as well. All three of them use themes and templates for visual appearance of sites and plugins, modules, or extensions for extending features. Joomla and Drupal are more developer-centered, and they do expect you to be reasonably comfortable with working with HTML and PHP. That's if you want to build a more custom-looking and custom operating website. With WordPress, you can get away with almost knowing no HTML and no PHP at all, and still be able to use a WordPress site quite confidently. So additional features. Each of these best CMS here offers its own spin on installing new features on your site. WordPress calls all new add-ons. So if you're adding a new feature, WordPress calls it plugins, Joomla calls it extensions, Drupal calls them modules. WordPress offers the biggest number of plugins, and those plugins are the most user-facing. You'll find, as I mentioned before, more than 50,000 plugins for WordPress. There are about 8,000 extensions for Joomla, and there's 44,000 modules for Drupal. Okay, so Drupal is quite close to WordPress and much more than Joomla, but WordPress is still in the lead with plugins or extensions or add-ons. All right, so what do you do when you're trying to decide between Drupal or WordPress? Here's a cheat sheet to help you decide. Are you looking for, or is your business or the organization that you're building the site for, they're looking for a more robust and complex situation, then yes, choose Drupal. If your needs are complex and your websites require robust functionality, invest in Drupal from the start. It takes longer to develop, but it'll be well worth the time and cost. So are you looking for a low-cost initial and ongoing investment? And choose WordPress. WordPress is affordable and allows for customization. If you're just creating a marketing website or not sure where the future is going to bring, start with WordPress, a great place to start. Value usability over custom functionality. So WordPress offers easy-to-use site with out-of-the-box functionality. Is security a key requirement? So choose Drupal. This is one of the main key things that your client is concerned with. Choose Drupal. WordPress sites are more targeted than Drupal, as we've talked about. WordPress themes and plugins are less secure than Drupal's. Another CMS I mentioned earlier is Typo 3. It's not a very popular CMS. The main differentiating point between Typo 3 and other CMS is its scalability. So Typo 3 caters to niche-like enterprise-level websites. So for a CMS developing an intra-site, an intranet, Typo 3 would be the right choice. It provides multilingual support and supports running multiple websites from a single installation. It's aimed at website developers or at people who have some experience in web development. Okay, Wix. So you might have come across Wix before, might have even created a site in Wix. So Wix is actually not a CMS, it's a website builder, which can be used to build websites without coding knowledge. It's not a CMS, it's a website builder. Wix is hosted, which means the sites are built within their system, and the technology is maintained by Wix as part of the subscription. So Wix can be highly extended using their developmental tools with knowledge of JavaScript. So Wix has the advantages of potentially having better security as well. All right, so what is the difference in between a CMS and a website builder? So Wix is a website builder. What does that mean? So a CMS lets you create, store, search, and manage content, which is typically stored in a SQL database. So you have control over virtually every element, and you're not limited to a specific host. Website builders are proprietary tools that work only on their platforms and to build the pages. So the greatest strength is their ease of use. So you don't need to worry about what goes on behind the scenes and things like that. But you don't actually have control over your content. You don't actually have it on your own, in your own database, your own server there. So Wix or WordPress. So Wix is a fine solution for a smaller one-man business. You just need a quick site up there. The ease of use makes it a good option for some people. However, it is a fully hosted service and comes with limitations, with a lot of limitations. Okay, it's quite similar to WordPress.com. Okay, so what is WordPress.org and what is WordPress.com? WordPress.org is where you're going to find the free WordPress softwares, all the files that you can download and then install on your own web server to create the website. With WordPress.org, you host your own blog or your own website on your own server, okay, or one that you subscribe to. And a lot of the web hosting services have a quick way for you to install your own website files or WordPress files that they will install it for you in one click, and we'll take a look at that in the next class. So basically WordPress.org provides you the files that you can download and then upload to the server, and these are your own files. You can do whatever you want, you own them. WordPress.com, however, takes care of all the web hosting for you. So it's like a service. You don't have to download the software. You don't have to pay for hosting, and you don't have to manage the web server. So everything is done for you. You will, however, be required to create an account on WordPress.com. And you get a free site on WordPress.com, but it's very limited. And many of the website features that you're going to need for a decent site are paid upgrades. So you have to pay to upgrade. Okay. So WordPress.com offers both free and premium plans. The free plan is 100% free with no strings attached. You can join at any time, you can quit at any time. You can set up the website on WordPress.com subdomain and use up to 3 gigabytes of disk space. However, you get WordPress.com's ads throughout your site, and then your URL looks like that. Your website will display like ads on each page if you're on the free plan, which looks very unprofessional. So the premium plans go for $4 to $45 per month, depending on what kind of features and perks you need. Okay, and these are my sources for this PowerPoint. Yeah, thanks for watching this whole video. We will next then take a look at your activity for today's class. So please look at that video to figure out what you need to do.